Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a fantastic week out there so far. Here to figure out what's going to happen weather-wise for your Tuesday, just like we always do for each and every day. Today's going to be kind of weird, though. There's multiple pieces of energy flying around out there across the lower 48, so we're going to do our best to try to figure out all the pieces to the puzzle for today and tonight's forecast. We have a threat of severe weather, a threat of flash flooding. The threat of severe weather is kind of complex. It's for multiple areas, but certainly a lower end threat for all of these areas. But we're going to figure that one out. We do have some active weather ongoing right now across southern Georgia and northern Florida that we'll talk about right off the dot here this morning. And then at the very end of the video, we'll discuss what's coming up. We'll give you sort of the next few day preview per the Storm Prediction Center as far as they're thinking on severe weather between basically tomorrow through the rest of the week, all the way into the weekend. And then we'll briefly discuss what's driving this kind of next few day period of severe weather chances coming up. And I think tonight we'll most likely get a video out. Now I say that, and a lot of times I don't. I'll try to stick to my word for this evening, but we'll kind of discuss the pattern in general coming up over the next several days, maybe, push it all the way out to the 7 to 10 day period and just try to get you guys a good idea of what's coming up as far as getting deeper into May. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Just want to thank y'all for a great first half of May. Of course, the growth has been, great just because the weather has been very active. So, obviously they kind of go together. If you have an active winter weather ongoing, you got active severe weather going, you got active tropics going. Typically, the growth is certainly there, but I just want to take, a moment to say welcome to any new subscribers. Welcome to any new people who decide to join the channel. I've had a few more people join the channel, and certainly thank you for the, just thanks for choosing this channel to tune into. Certainly appreciate it. So with all that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. So as you can tell, you can even look at the radar right now. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle out there. You got energy up here in the northern Rockies, northern plains. It could bring some strong to severe storms later on this afternoon into this evening. You got energy out in the Gulf of Mexico. You got a lot of energy this morning rumbling across the Gulf coastline into northern Florida, southern Georgia, and just scattered rain showers across the southeast, the mid-Atlantic. And then we have an actual kind of surface low right in here spinning around. This is going to bring an opportunity, I think, for some severe weather also for like Kentucky, Tennessee, and surrounding states later on this afternoon, this evening. Sort of a tricky event that we're going to discuss. We had just what looked like a pretty stout tornado in Missouri. I think it was like Branson, Missouri. Somebody will probably correct me on that if I'm wrong. But we had just an odd setup to produce the tornado in Missouri yesterday. That's like the second time over the last 7 days. There wasn't a non-threat of severe weather, but it was a very low-end threat. So it just tells you, we can't always get these right. But we got some rain kind of scooting out of Quebec and Ontario, heading into the northern sections of New England. So we do have scattered action all across the board this morning for sure. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Going to look at the actual National Weather Service site here because it's updated. Some frost advisories up here for northern Wisconsin, northeastern sections of Minnesota. You tend to hang on to that colder air a little bit longer in this portion of the country. Tornado watches are up for a couple tornadoes being possible in northern Florida and southern Georgia. We have that active weather ongoing right now. Outside of that, not super active. I mean, some wind advisories, some dense fog advisories, but nothing too extreme. So as far as watches, warnings, and advisories, it's not super active out there. The excessive rainfall outlook. In the yellow, at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles at any given point. The green is a 5% chance. So there is a threat of flash flooding today, especially northern Florida, central Florida, where you could get multiple rounds of storms throughout the next 24 to 36 hours, and I'll show you that as we zoom into Florida here in a second. Storm Prediction Center. As of right now, this is what we got. A slight risk for extreme southern Georgia and pretty much all of northern, and I would say north central and central Florida. This thing does include Jacksonville down to Orlando, Tampa, and I think down here in Orlando, Tampa. Let me open my mouth so I can talk well here. All the way down to like Fort Myers, especially later this evening into tonight, run the risk of strong and severe storms. But if you see this weird extension all the way up into Cincinnati, Evansville, Louisville, pretty much Kentucky, including almost all of Tennessee, and then this is obviously including Georgia, South Carolina, portions of North Carolina. This is an area to watch later on today as the atmosphere tries to recover from all the morning rain. Could be a tricky, I would say sneaky tornado threat, even as far north as like Kentucky. Just want to watch, just seeing what we saw yesterday back in Missouri and things like that. This will kind of be the same thing, the kind of same similar little mini triple point kind of setup. It's kind of a very conditional threat of severe weather down here in Texas with this kind of isolated marginal risk. And then here across the plains, the high plains, west and east, you do have that marginal risk of severe weather. So we'll talk about that a little bit also. But as we break down the southeast, of course, we'll take this broad look at it first, and we'll zoom through this very quick, and then we're going to zoom in to all these individual regions. So, hold tight with me for a second. Just want to show you the broader picture. All these storms rumbling through North Florida. Look at all these pockets of downpours across South Carolina, areas of Georgia. More of just I wouldn't say a chilly, but a cooler rain up here in North Carolina, Virginia. A little bit of a cold air damming setup, kind of setting up in this region. What we call a CAD for shorts, and this could definitely decrease the severe weather threat for areas of Virginia and the Carolinas for today. But we also got these storms firing up here east of the Mississippi that will eventually kind of get slung back and through and kind of pivot through Tennessee, Kentucky. Look up here in southern Illinois, southern Indiana. Even still back here in Missouri, I want to watch all these south of this surface low. They could do something funky a little bit later today. We'll have to watch. And then you see these isolated areas in red across the Carolinas. You got a few cells back here in Alabama, still Georgia. And I'm telling you, you got to watch these storms here in South Carolina, even in the Piedmont and the Sandhills of North Carolina. And certainly all these storms right in here, and then all these areas in Florida. There's a lot of things going on here. And then we continue to move this forward. Things will diminish with the loss of daytime heating. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning with another area of unsettled weather and energy across northern Florida. So let's zoom into all of these regions, right? All right, so let's zoom into southern Georgia and Florida first. So we do have this line of storms rumbling through right now. I think this will maintain itself throughout the morning. This is around 11 a.m. These are starting to knock on the doorstep of Jacksonville. Could be more intense up in Jacksonville than what this is showing, but certainly points south. If you live, an hour, 2, 3 hours south of Jacksonville, you want to certainly be mindful of these storms in northern Florida. These could produce some tornadoes, damaging winds, maybe some hail with it also, and certainly will just produce the opportunity for strong to severe storms. I think by the time we get into this afternoon, this round will make its way off the southeastern coastline. And then what happens later on this afternoon is you could get more showers and storms that forms and kind of drifts from the Gulf of Mexico inland into like the coastline, the panhandle of Florida, the Big Bend of Florida. Then we'll get more showers and storms. This is around 7 p.m. You want to watch these too, kind of rumbling through the same areas. So a lot of rain could add up, and you'll get multiple rounds or multiple opportunities for strong to severe storms. This will head on off, then you get a lull, if you will, into the overnight hours, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and then we get some more storms firing up along the panhandle of Florida. And then these will eventually, potentially will kind of, I would say, turn into a more congealed, larger area of storms and energy across northern Florida as we're waking up tomorrow around 7 a.m. around this time. Could have some very unsettled weather making its way into the Big Bend sections of Florida, into Jacksonville, and eventually this line will progress southward. And then areas down the Tampa, I would say like down the Space Coast, Orlando, you'll get a nasty line of storms most likely tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon. And we have to see what these storms will do as they eventually drift into the Bahamas and southern sections of Florida. So this is getting all the way into tomorrow evening, of course. But the updraft Felicity swap with this first round of storms this morning does indicate some stronger updrafts, maybe some rotation with some of these storms. So you want to watch out for this. We will have an opportunity for some rotation with this line of storms that sweeps through. So be careful in North Florida throughout the, I wouldn't say the early morning, but certain areas are getting those early morning showers and storms right now. But later in the morning, all the way to about midday for like Jacksonville, be careful. Line of storms going to make its way through everybody in northern Florida. But then as we start to get into the kind of the evening hours, eventually into the overnight hours, it doesn't show much in the way of any kind of crazy stronger updrafts in this region, but it does show it as we're getting into tomorrow, as a line of storms will sweep southward across the peninsula of Florida. Rainfall between now and tomorrow evening, so I'm not going to this evening all the way to tomorrow evening, and this will eventually add up tomorrow night in South Florida, but I'm going with the blend of all models here because, you know, the National Weather Service site it doesn't look like their sites agree at all, and it just looks very odd when it comes to the colors. But in general, I would say 1 to 2.5 inches of rain is likely across the northern half of Florida into just the panhandle of Florida between now and the next, 36 hours or so. Good bit of rain is possible here in southern Georgia also, maybe an inch, inch and a half, but you guys are already receiving the rain right now. A little bit further up the road here in the southeast of Carolinas, dealing with a lot of shower activity, not many storms out there. As we start to get to about midday, this will continue to be widespread, especially, I would say, in eastern South Carolina all the way up to central sections of North Carolina. Just note that up here, even though you see these pockets of orange and yellows, it's more of a cooler atmosphere. You got a bit of a cold air damming setting up, so temperatures probably won't get out the 50s and 60s up here potentially. These are notoriously hard to forecast. They really are. You get down here, you'll probably get some temperatures in the 70s and 80s today, so you got to watch for all these little storms here. I think for the most part, these are just producing some very heavy rain, stormy, activity. But as we start to get into the afternoon, you start to get a bit of a clearing down here in Georgia and even South Carolina. More just widespread heavy rain with some bedded pockets of thunderstorms from Raleigh up to Richmond. Just widespread, just washout conditions. Look at these storms off the coastline, though. But as we start to get this clearing, this is around 5 p.m., definitely be mindful of these storms, especially in South Carolina. Atmosphere tries to recover right as we're getting into the tail end of the daylight hours. And I do want to watch out for these storms. Like, look at these ones down here near the PD region near Myrtle Beach and things like that. You want to be mindful of those. I think you'll get a tongue of more higher end surface moisture, higher end dew points that might surge into this region, really provide thermodynamics for stronger to severe storms. Watch out for these storms all the way up to Columbia, to Fayetteville, all the way down to Macon. I'm telling you, don't let these catch you off guard. And there is a lower end tornado risk. I mean, the Storm Prediction Center does have a 2% risk of a tornado all the way up to central sections of Georgia, central South Carolina, and basically hugging the entire Carolina coastline and Georgia coastline. So it tells you right there that, there is a shot at some of these to produce. A low end shot, but there's a chance for a tornado in some of these storms. And then we start to get into the morning hours, and then we're most likely going to wake up tomorrow morning with another round of showers and storms kind of on its way into the Carolinas. But if you look at the significant tornado parameter, I mean, it's already kind of there, not even a 1, but you're starting to see some highlighted colors. And remember, the higher the number you see on your screen with this, the better the ingredients for tornadoes. But I want you to watch as we start to get into the evening hours. Look in southern sections of Georgia, you start to get some 2s and 3s showing up. And this does even rise all the way up to Atlanta and then areas of South Carolina. So the ingredients does try to get there, but you're still lacking a lot of ingredients too. You just really are. So you definitely want to be mindful of this, though. Don't be surprised you get a tornado warning or two across the Carolinas and Georgia today, later this afternoon into this evening, I would say. So definitely don't let that catch you by surprise there. Now, this is a tricky area that I wanted to give some attention to here. You already are waking up to some showers, shower activity, maybe some storms across areas of southern Illinois, some shower activity across western sections of Kentucky and Tennessee. And I'm speaking on that, and I'm going off the radio. Yeah, definitely. You're definitely getting that right now. So, my deal with this area is not a higher end threat of severe weather, but as you're making your way until about the early afternoon hours, around 2 p.m. Central Time, you see these areas of darker reds, even some pinks, just oranges and yellows. I would say, hey, I think that these have an opportunity because they're up near the surface low to have some rotation with some of these storms broad, but we've had some sneaky tornadoes over the last couple of days. We had what happened in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, I think a couple days ago, and then we had what happened in Missouri yesterday. So what I'm saying is, this is why I'm giving some attention to this area. Be mindful of this entire region. You see all these scattered showers and storms across the southern half of Illinois, Indiana, Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, these could pack a punch. I'm telling you, there could be an isolated tornado with this today, just because this is a mini triple point being met up to the surface low that will eventually actually drift to the southeast due to just the pattern in place and the flow aloft. But you see this more stout line of storms kind of slashing through central Tennessee. You just want to watch out for this. This is getting into this evening now, and then the spin starts to lose the instability with it as you just lose the, loss of daytime heating, and as we're starting to get into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. But definitely be mindful of this. It's not going to show much per the updraft Felicity swath. I wouldn't expect it to, but there is little splotches out there. There is areas, little pockets down here in Tennessee, Kentucky. I would just watch this entire region later on this afternoon to this evening, right after lunchtime. I really would. So, Northeast, kind of a similar day that you've seen just about all spring. You're probably going to have an opportunity for some shower activity, especially for the southern sections of the Northeast, really getting down to PA. You're probably going to have some scattered showers. And as we're starting to get into this afternoon, maybe a storm or two in Ohio will swing in, especially for the southwestern sections of the state. More widespread rain down here in the mid-Atlantic into Maryland and Delmarva area. We're starting to get into this evening, maybe some rain near the down east sections of Maine. Scattered downpours, maybe some small hail is possible in Vermont and New Hampshire. And as we're getting into the overnight hours, more widespread rain begins to enter the southern half of New York. PA starts to see it. Look at all this rain across central PA. And then we're getting all the way to tomorrow morning and just kind of waking up to rainy conditions from the mid-Atlantic all the way up to NYC, Long Island, scattered showers more so up here in interior sections of the Northeast. Not a bad day in the Northeast, but, certainly have energy around, that's for sure. So, the South Central U.S., quiet this morning, and I think for the most part it will be quiet. I think you do have to watch this back end spin around this surface low. Just some pockets of heavier rain, small hail is possible with all these little scattered showers and downpours and maybe even thunderstorms across Missouri. So don't be surprised you get some small hail in Missouri or even into the Ozarks, northern Arkansas, things like that. But as we're starting to get into the afternoon, evening hours, I know you're not seeing any action down here where there's a marginal risk in western Texas, but there is a chance for a conditional threat of a pop-up stronger severe storm. I don't expect much of anything, but certainly be mindful of it. Western Kansas, some showers drifting through later this evening into the overnight hours. And there's not a whole lot to speak on for you folks in the South Central U.S. at all. So the North Central U.S., this is where we kind of have multiple pieces of energy also. We're getting some widespread shower and storm activity kind of getting thrown into maybe as far north as like Rockford, Illinois. Could make it as far northwest as southeast Iowa. Some shower activity all the way into southern sections of lower Michigan. At the same time, we do have energy kind of surging through. We'll zoom into the northern plains here in a second. But you'll continue to get this spin. We're starting to get to the overnight hours. Certainly be mindful of what can happen in Indiana well after the sun sets tonight. It's just some heavier pockets of rain, some showers and storms in western Ohio. And just about all of Indiana has a shot at it. Surface low right in here in southern sections of Illinois. And then we're starting to get into the morning hours. Not a whole lot for like the Great Lakes region. Pretty quiet day for you folks. We're waking up to widespread rains across South Dakota. Scattered light rains possible across northern Minnesota and eastern North Dakota and then down to Nebraska. But a closer look at the northern plains, there is a threat of severe weather. Some energy will shoot out the Rockies. And definitely watch out, especially, I would say in eastern Wyoming, kind of the high plains, northern plains region. Showers and storms possible in western sections of South Dakota, just western sections of South Dakota in general. And you want to watch, there could be an intense area of storms that kind of rides down the South Dakota-Nebraska line here. So be mindful of this. If you live in this region, if you're tuning in, certainly let me know. I would love to know if people are tuning in from South Dakota or Nebraska. I've already had a couple people who tell me that and some loyal viewers up there. But you see these scattered pockets of downpour, some storms, even up here in Montana. Snow levels aren't unusually low or high, just kind of average out here, but some stronger storms or two could be down here in southern sections of Nebraska, and then we'll keep this going, and then the energy kind of wanes as we get into the overnight hours into tomorrow morning, just waking up to some widespread rains across the high plains, northern plains region across this region. The rest of the western U.S. pretty much covered all of it. Just that energy flying out the Rockies, the northern Rockies, into the northern plains. Southwest continues to be very quiet. Some scattered showers are possible across Colorado, maybe Utah, maybe northern New Mexico, maybe a shower or two possible, kind of right near the Valley and Sierra Nevada region. It's very possible, but I don't expect anything widespread or impactful or anything like that. But we take it all the way to tomorrow morning, and it remains quiet. It's a pretty quiet. It's been, like I said, it's been pretty quiet in the Southwest for some time now. It really has. So temperatures today, it's going to warm up nicely where you don't have to deal with the cloud cover much and the rain here in the Northeast. So some shower activity possible in Maine and then down here in PA, but, kind of the gap in between before any kind of activity moves in, you'll have an opportunity for a nice day today across like southern New England in general. I think Boston will make a run at probably 80 degrees over the next couple of days. And I saw from a local meteorologist up there, I don't think you guys have hit 80 degrees yet, which is pretty wild. I don't know how unusual or usual that is, but very hot, kind of south of this boundary of storms in Florida. 90s. I wonder if somebody will hit 100 down here today. It'd be pretty wild. Very hot in southern Texas. And then just this area of lower pressure kind of introducing the opportunity for lower temperatures, just 60s and 70s across this area right here. But where you're not dealing with as much activity, it'll warm well into the 70s and 80s, but nothing unseasonably warm by any means across the eastern U.S., except if you live in southern Florida. And then pretty warm across the plains, very comfortable. And just a pocket of lower pressure, keeping your temperatures somewhat low across the northern Rockies, but nothing too crazy one way or the other. Very warm, downright hot in certain areas for this time of the year down here in the Southwest, but certainly nothing you guys can't handle down here. Nice conditions in sort of the lower elevation, the plateau regions of, Oregon and Washington State for sure. So severe weather will have an opportunity to be there once again tomorrow. I am watching this setup for the Carolinas as kind of the same activity that sort of brought that tornado in Missouri yesterday. It's kind of moving across areas of the lower Midwest region, I would say the Ohio Valley today, and then that surface low will sort of drift southeastward into the Carolinas, upper southeast, mid-Atlantic region tomorrow. Will bring a pocket of a chance of severe weather. So we'll speak on this here in the next video. And then there'll be another threat of severe weather tomorrow. I could see this getting upgraded to a slight risk. We have to watch out for this. And then there will be a threat of strong to severe storms across the middle of the country. I could see this upgrading to a slight risk too, especially down into here after looking at some mesoscale model guidance. I want to watch for an upgrade to a slight risk in certain areas that you're seeing here. But this is driven off sort of our lower pressure heading on off. This is driven off kind of another area of energy making its way across the Rockies. And then we start to get into day 3, which is for our Thursday. Slight risk already up for day 3, guys. And this is probably going to be driven off more so for large hail, but there will also be a tornado threat. And what this is also being kind of introduced because of is another southern shortwave, much like what we're dealing with right now, that is going to kind of move in similar fashion. Of course, they're never exactly the same, but a similar setup. And this will once again bring the opportunity for strong to severe storms across Texas and Oklahoma, maybe another area right up here near a surface low in Missouri and across the mid-Mississippi Valley. And then already for day 4, this is new. For day 4, there's a chance, basically a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, for Louisiana and areas of Mississippi. Very small section. We'll have to watch out for this. And I think there's going to be a severe weather threat for Saturday, too. It's just kind of one of those, it's getting to that time of the year, guys. Even deep into summer it does this, where you're pretty much going to at least have a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather just about every single day for the foreseeable future. And a lot of days you'll have slight risk, too. It's just getting to that time of the year. It's nothing unusual about this. It really isn't. But a slight risk right into here. We'll see if this uptrends or anything like that. So certainly watch for that in this area. But this is all driven off, I would say, today's threat of severe weather and tomorrow's threat of severe weather across the eastern U.S. and southeast is driven off this area of lower pressure. This is for this afternoon. This is what we call a short wave or an upper trough, upper low, lower energy in the blue. That's what it's symbolized by. Lower pressure. I don't know if I said lower energy, but a lower pressure, pretty much the same thing. And the orange, higher pressure, more stable conditions, warmer than average temperature. So watch as this continues to sort of chug off to the east, and then another area kind of moves into the picture. So as we're getting into Wednesday morning, this area continues to move. Eventually, it'll stop influencing our weather. By the time we get into Thursday morning, this is starting to slowly, very slowly drift off into the Atlantic Ocean. And then you'll watch this. This is our next area right here. Thursday morning, this is what's going to bring severe weather across Texas. And basically what happens here, and we'll see if this is going to work. It is cool. Basically what happens here is this is going to surge moisture. Remember, kind of the flow around these areas of lower pressure go like this in the northern hemisphere. So this is going to surge moisture out ahead of this upper low or short wave trough, whatever you want to call it, out ahead of this. Sometimes some of the phrases I use, I try to not get too technical with it. Sometimes just say energy. That's the best way you can say, and I love using that word because it's energy in the atmosphere. But this is going to bring the opportunity of severe weather across Texas and the southern plains. And then we kind of keep this in motion, right? And we get into our Friday. You see how it's progressing kind of eastward across the southern tier of the country. And then we're getting the Friday afternoon, okay? And this is going to bring an opportunity for severe weather on the southeast and eastern base of this lower pressure. It's probably going to be some sort of weak surface low associated with this lower pressure. And probably going to have severe weather across this area. And that is exactly why you have that slight risk right into here. Now, if you continue to progress this eastward, get a little bit further out in time, I think a little bit of a ridge flex, southeast ridge tries to flex in here and then tries to kind of slow down this energy. And it's cut off anyways. Look at this ridge building over it. So this is now a full-fledged cut-off low, which tend to do all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's not as a pronounced, I would say, area of lower energy at this point as we're getting into Friday afternoon, but this will still get the job done for just energy in the atmosphere and probably a threat of strong to severe storms somewhere across the southeast. This is still some upper energy around, but I think as we start to get to the latter portion of the weekend, it's still hanging around, but I would say it's starting to lose some intensity. But you want to watch these areas. And this is getting all the way into Sunday afternoon. As they try to, this time of the year, as they try to creep off the coast of the southeast, sometimes they like to do some things as far as the tropics. So always we'll watch that. But we get into next week, and you're starting to get a lower pressure showing up, kind of a big just area of energy out here next week. And then the opportunity for more substantial severe weather threats across the plains is already kind of being hinted at, kind of in the mid to longer range of these models, but we just need to kind of iron out the details. There's a full-fledged trough ejection across the plains, the Rockies into the plains. That would introduce severe weather across the middle of the country. So we'll figure all that out here in due time. We just got to get through the next several days. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again in the next video. Hopefully this evening I'll get a video out. God bless all y'all.